Hello and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be looking at a video that was suggested by channel member Pterodactylus. This is how to drink tea in a tank by the Tank Museum. So I've been to like some kind of military museum. I think it was a tank museum, but it was probably not this tank museum. But I don't know. I was intrigued when I saw the title of this 15 minutes ago. I was intrigued. I want to know how you drink tea in a tank. I imagine that it kind of gets splashed everywhere. So if there's a trick to it that's not a travel mug, I would be keen to know about it. So I don't want to take any more time. I want to learn how to drink tea in a tank. Let's go. Okay. The following footage was filmed on the 10th of March before lockdown. So that was my birthday. What did I do? The 9th of March, we went axe throwing of that year. I think the 10th was a Sunday, I believe. And I think I went to a movie that night. I think we went to go see Bloodshot. And then the week after that, I went to go see Birds of Prey, and then everything shut down the next day. Like my birthday was like almost exactly a week before everything shut down. Everything I think shut down on like the 16th or something. So my birthday, we got a few things in that week, but very little. So I wonder when did this video come out? 4 years ago. Okay, so they were just be like, hey, we filmed this before the lockdown went into effect. All right. Okay, let's go. Sorry, that was a random tangent.
Hello, I'm James Holland, and I'm a historian of the Second World War.
And I'm Richard Cutland. For the past 8 years, I've worked for World of Tanks, but for 30 years before that, I was a tank crewman with the Royal Tank Regiment.
Dang.
Now, here at Bovington, we're always being asked all manner of questions, so we thought we'd sit down and try and answer some of them.
Therefore, welcome to a brand new series, How to in a Tank.
See, like the way they're sitting right now, it was like, I should sit up straight. They're all slouchied. I'm gonna I should sit up. It reminded me.
This video is sponsored by the free-to-play online game World of Tanks.
World of Tanks is a multiplayer PC game where you can take control of history's most powerful machines and enjoy tactical player versus player gameplay.
It's kind of cool to have somebody promoting World of Tanks that rode in a tank forever and who's still clearly super, super passionate about it. It's also kind of weird to have it be kind of an older gentleman talking about a video game in such a way, but that might just be stereotypes.
Download the game at the link below. Use the invite code for an exclusive starter kit.
One tanky. That's cute.
Well, if there's one thing the British love, it's a good cup of tea.
Fair.
And as a former tank commander, I couldn't agree more. We all loved, as a crew, getting together and having a brew.
And the British Army thought it was so important that from 1945 onwards, they actually put on-board brewing facilities inside the turret.
So, funnily enough, in this particular episode, we're going to look at how to make tea in a tank.
Okay. We're making it. Okay.
Now, of course, the
Not
soldiers
just
in the
drinking
First World War didn't have the relative comforts that we had on Challenger 2.
No, it's all pretty basic stuff here. But the little creature comfort you get is from the Tommy cooker, which you're now going to try and get to work, Richard. They're ingenious, aren't they? Because they're tiny, and so you take the lid off, which you've done. You pierce this, and it's just kind of some flammable gel.
I really want to help him with it. I've had to use these things so many times in just working restaurants and catering and stuff. I mean, the ones that we usually use had a blue petroleum jelly kind of thing in there, but this, I feel like I could make that work just fine. It's and you put the little thing on top. It's like a little stand is what that thing was. But yeah, no, so that's what they use at catering things to keep the trays of food warm.
Then you've got your mess tin, 2 enamel mugs, carnation milk, and of course you want carnation milk because of course that's what keeps it, from going off. Tinned milk. Okay,
so is that the same as condensed milk then, or is condensed milk and carnation milk different things?
Plenty of sugar, bag of tea, pour it all together, And you're
What
good
have
to
you
go.
got?
And this starts-
Bippity
that sounded
boppity
like-
boo.
Oh, it has lit. It has lit.
It has lit. There you
It's
go.
absolutely lit. That's amazing.
It's like
Okay,
kind
so
of
we got-
a very, if you've never seen one before, it is kind of a hard to see flame. You might not notice right away if it has been lit. So you do have to be careful.
get this.
It's kind of like a very, good job.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
It's like, but did they forget that there was actually a burning fire there? Like, it. Okay.
Now let's just hope that the soldiers in the First World War were a lot better doing this than we were.
Okay, let's just.
You're like,
It
forget
might not
about
be
it.
the best for health and safety, but you know, being in the Western Front's not great for health and safety. Let's face it.
Very true.
Fair.
Oh, you're gonna put straight into the pot. Dearie me, look at me.
Look at that. Oh, look at the hue that is turning. That's going to be absolutely a thing of wonder.
Okay, so they've just
delicious
poured the
already, James.
tea
the steam's
leaves
coming
in there.
off it. It's beginning to bubble. It's time.
It's like touch my finger all in this tea that we're both gonna drink. Great. This is super sanitary. Although I guess you know what? You're already on the Western Front. It's all right. Like a little bit of finger juice isn't gonna make it worse. So I guess he just poured the tea leaves in there then.
Time to pour it in. A little bit for me, a little bit for you.
Drop of milk for you.
I'm going to put the lid back on. So this is how you do. You just get rid of it like that. Boom.
Yep.
And obviously we need a bit of sugar, don't we?
2 for me, please.
Two for you. Can tell
and
you.
sweet.
Can tell you were in the army.
It's like
Is that
custard.
like
Yeah.
a
No, it's not
common
milk
army
as
thing?
you
2
and
for
I
me.
would normally know it. And we've both got the.
Because it's about like sugar cubes, right? And I just don't necessarily think of that as necessarily a full-on military
There you
thing.
go, James. Cheers.
A
Looks
refreshing.
incredibly tasty.
Enjoy your cuppa, gents.
Sweet and
Actually,
hot.
I think that's hitting the spot for me. I'm absolutely fine with that.
It's actually better than I was anticipating.
Oh, really? Tea first really comes to Britain in the 18th century.
I mean, we don't know how long they let it steep for, and like that's kind of important. Also, I like that we're getting just tea history really quick.
And really takes a hold. And by the 19th century, it's absolutely kind of part of the daily ritual. I mean, what you've got to remember with the First World War is
I also didn't realize it was so late to the British Empire, like 18th century. I didn't realize it was quite that late. I thought it was a little early. I knew it wasn't earlier, like early, but I did think it was 18th century.
you know, a lot of the water was coming from kind of sort of cans that have been cleaned up by the use of chlorine or by petrol. So the water you're getting is pretty ropey. It's obviously one of the
Ew.
reasons why you want to kind of sort of boil it up as much as you possibly can. So whatever your tea tastes like, it's going to have that kind of residual kind of flavour of chlorine or fuel. Funny enough, you know, some British
So maybe don't choose a tea that you know you love, because then you're like trying to drink it later in a normal cup might ruin it.
soldiers did have thermos flasks as well, which of course, ironically, were designed and built by the Germans. How do you get enough heat to make a brew very quickly and then get rid of it again really quickly? The genius about this is you can light it. You know, we lit this in a gale. You immediately put it out again and put it in your back pocket and you have a sack and off you go, don't you?
And do you think, I mean, was every single soldier issue one of these?
No, they weren't. They weren't standard
No.
issue actually, which is weird because they flipping well should have been. I mean,
They flipping well should have been. Oh, like they flipping well should have been. I like how he said that. I don't know if everybody needs one of those. Like it seems like it would take up a significant amount of space, right? And everything you had to since you had to carry so much on your back already, anyway. Or was that just infantry? Is this infantry? I don't know the places in the army. But I mean, you had to carry everything, right? So like maybe don't make everyone carry one of those. Have a bunch of them, but not everybody needs one.
they're absolutely amazing. But the problem is less sort of, you know, I mean, it doesn't give off much of a flame, does it?
Which is good from a tactical scenario, from a tactical point of view.
Yeah, but you just don't want to be kind of faffing around trying to sort of light fires with bits of soggy wood, do you?
Yeah,
You just want instant heat, switch it off again. The interesting thing about the tank, though, is, you know, inside there, I mean, that is brutal because the fumes inside this thing are
Oh.
just toxic in the extreme.
Ooh.
So for obvious reasons, you don't really want to be kind of setting light to a Tommy cooker.
I hadn't thought about
Inside
that,
it.
but
But
yeah.
of course, even today, I mean, you know, soldiers are soldiers, and I guarantee you, no matter what anybody says or anything you read, that at some stages they would brew up inside that vehicle.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're
I
right.
bet they
And I
did.
think people underestimate the importance of it. I mean, even today, when we were on operations, it is so critical. You all get together as a crew, you sit down and you have a couple of seconds or a few minutes, hopefully, off from everything that's going on, all the chaos.
Yep.
And you can sit down and actually have a nice hot cup of tea. I mean, even in Iraq, where it was baking hot, of course, we would still be drinking hot brews. It's a very
Yeah.
British thing to do, isn't it?
It feels very British. I was like, the Americans drink iced tea when it's cold, when it's hot outside. Like we at the restaurant where I work, we don't actually have we don't really have iced tea. I am more than willing to pour hot tea over ice for you. Most people do not take me up on that.
Yeah.
So, that's the First World War.
Now World War II and the Sherman tank.
Let's go.
Allons-y.
So we've left the First World War behind and now we're on to the Second World War. And there were a number of different ways in which you could brew up in World
So this one, it seems like they've gotten rid of that tactical Tommy cooker thing, and we're just going full on trash campfire.
World War II. You could have your
With
primer
gasoline.
stove, you can make your own fire, or you could have a Benghazi burner, which is what we've gone for here.
Benghazi
So you pour it in the
burner.
fuel, light the match,
That's all.
and just drop it in, Richard. There we go. You all right?
It's like my guy. Careful of your eyebrows, dude.
Got eyebrows? Still got eyebrows.
Oh, hi.
Here's our mess tin with water.
Do you know the great
I like
thing
that he
about
said
this
the same
is, James, is also gives you a bit of visual. Like, unlike the Tommy cooker that we had before, this is fantastic. And soldiers like
You can
nothing
sit
more.
around it, can't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
None of them probably smelled like a good campfire, though. Like that burning wood smell. This is just gonna smell like fumes.
It's a proper campfire.
Now, during the Second World War, you'd still have loose tea, you'd still have your carnation milk, but you also had composite tea. And it has to be said, you know, it wasn't as popular as ordinary tea.
I'm assuming that's a mixture of it all. Then it's all together.
Oh,
It's a one-stop
okay.
shop.
So it's like a little powder. Okay. We have some of that at the restaurant where I work too. It's an apple tea. It's a pre-sweetened. It's very, very good. But yeah, it's just a powder and it makes things go a lot faster. Cause like the other tea that we have, it's a loose leaf. That one takes a while to brew. And then it gets very bitter and strong very quickly. So it's like we have to like mostly have like by the end of the night, it's mostly water and a little tiny bit of tea for color. But the apple tea that we have, that powdered tea, it's very quick. It's very fast. I like it.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And it looks absolutely disgusting.
It looks horrible,
Okay,
doesn't it?
great.
Look at that. So that is dried tea, dried milk.
Oh, okay. So they have milk in theirs too. All right. Interesting. Ugh. Okay. Granted, I don't know. I don't drink milk in my tea unless I'm drinking boba. Like, and in that case, it's usually coconut milk. But other than that, I'm not really if I don't like the taste of the tea by itself, I don't drink it. Like, I just won't drink. And like, it's similar for me with coffee too, honestly. If I don't like it by itself, just as it is, I probably am not going to, I don't want to have to dress it up, in order to like it. But that's just because I feel like a lot of that, at least, was one, because when I was originally drinking stuff, it was, I needed to just be fast. I needed to get out of there quickly. And so like, it's faster just to not have to dress it up at all. And then the other thing is milk and stuff started making me feel not so great. So I got rid of creamers.
God, it's got horrible little bits in it. I tell you what, where this is where you really do need your sugar as well.
Okay, so they
Stir it all
don't
in.
have
I've got to
sugar
say
in
that
it.
does
That doesn't
look
look
absolutely
good.
gopping.
But
So we've also got some boiled sweets here, and this is the story from Ken Tout.
I just don't like tea that's that colour.
In the Northamptonshire Yeomanry, served in Normandy and beyond, and he's a lovely fellow. He's a absolutely top bloke. But he used to say that he often used to put a boiled sweet in there as well. Now I'm gonna.
Even today we get boiled sweets in
Do you?
ration packs, but I've never heard of it being put in tea before.
okay.
So it must
Though, I can kind of see where it is because it's like it's a sugary thing, right? But you don't actually have to carry sugar to put in there with you. Just drop your boiled sweet in, and then boom, boom, there you got a sweet drink. I've definitely like chipped off like pieces of a chocolate bar or something and put it in my coffee and just let it melt in there. It tastes good.
You're pretty hefty on water, though, James. I mean, it takes a lot of water to make a cup of tea all the time, and
Yep.
there's only a limited amount of water that you actually carry on a vehicle. And obviously,
And time.
the
How much
important
time do
thing
you
is
have?
making sure that you keep the coolant system topped up as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, water's always a problem. I mean, less so obviously in Northwest Europe where you've got lots of rivers and all the rest of it. But yeah, in the
Excuse me.
desert, it's an absolute nightmare. One of the things they used to do in the desert, they used to put, because the water bowsers were kind of very obvious, they looked like little tankers, with cylinders on the back, giant cylinders on the back. So what they used to do was put a canvas cover over it and quite often put a red cross on top as well, just to kind of really kind of
Okay,
prove the point.
little sneaky.
And again, you have that whole thing that you...
Because you weren't supposed to go after medical tents, right? So like they put the Red Cross on there and make it think it's medical, but it's also health. It's for the
that
health.
you had in the First World War of
Not wrong.
Water tasted of petrol, it tasted of chlorine. It was all pretty disgusting, really.
And I can't emphasise enough how disgusting that actually.
It doesn't look great, does it? But we're gonna sample it now. I'm gonna give you a little bit anyway, Richard.
I'm looking forward to this.
Are you?
But actually, one thing that's very interesting. That does look properly hot, though.
Thank you very much.
One thing that's very interesting is in 1942, it's probably the nadir of the British Army's fortunes, certainly in the war in the West, where they've lost the Gazala battle.
You get to
They've
have
just had
more.
to kind of flee.
So like it's things like that. I'm like, so did they just reuse a different closer shot while he was still talking there just to have something different, or did he actually give him more after the fact? Because it could go either way. I've definitely done that trick myself before, to like it's like a similar but slightly closer angle on the same shot while maybe boring talking is going on, or maybe like they had to re-record some of the audio because it does seem pretty windy out here, so like re-record some of the audio because like they couldn't quite get the mouth to match up, so it probably is not. I have no idea, but I just kind of notice things like that, and then I wonder, pourquoi? What's happened there? Something was a little bit amiss.
From Tobruk on the June 1942, and they're in full retreat back to the Alamein line. And morale is absolutely rock bottom at this moment. And I heard it said that at that moment, had it not been for the tea ration coming through, we could have easily kind of thrown in the towel. I mean, that is how important tea was to the British Tommy.
And I can appreciate that.
It makes sense.
It sounds amazing. I mean, the amount of times that we have been
You need that morale up.
super cold, absolutely drenched to the skin on exercise or operations, and to have something like this is just incredible. And of course, you can't underestimate the fact that, it may seem nice to sit around a fire with a cup of tea, but it's also incredibly good for the crew. It makes you perform better. It wakens you up a bit.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Yeah. I hadn't even considered the caffeine angle. I was thinking about like the social morale. Like you get to just relax with your crewmates and you're all like on the same level. You're all tired. You're all like, here's the tea though. We're commiserating together. Like just commiserating together can be very helpful. Like that's why servers go into the kitchen to bitch. Like, run to the kitchen like at this person. Like then you like get it out of your system and then it's like, okay, now I can face the world at large once again.
It's really, really important. Anyway, I'm going to try this tea.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Cheers.
It's not quite as bad as it looks. I'll tell you what it tastes of. About sort of 15, 20 years ago, if you were going to a public place and you'd have your sort of 50p and you'd have a little sort of horrible little plastic cup of tea that would come out of the machine. That's what this tastes like. And of course, there's a reason why it tastes like that, because that's exactly what it is.
I have to say, though, with
God.
stacks of sugar, it's still pretty good, and it's
I can handle it with lots of sugar. Oh, okay. Okay. I've never seen like a tea vending machine like that, but we did used to have a coffee one in my high school. And then we had one again in college, between like the Common and the Quad and like one of the little like hallways that connected two buildings. They had like one of these little coffee vending machines. The first time I tried them, it was at school, and there was lots of sweet ones, and it was fine, and it was great in high school. And then my mom told me a story that made me say I will never, ever, ever, ever drink out of one of these ever again. And then I went to college, and sometimes it becomes necessary. But this story nasted me out is the words I'm going to use for that, even though that's not a saying anyone has ever said ever before and probably never will again. But my mom told me a story about one of the times that she had, like, they in her college or her nursing school, maybe, whatever, they had one of those. And she said one time her friend went to go and get some coffee out of it, and a roach came out of the spout. And then when they went to service the vending machine and they removed the back, it was covered, like just so many roaches, like horrifying. And so I was like, I'll never, ever, ever try. I'll never have it again at the vending machine. I don't trust it. That's horrifying and disgusting. If I can't see where like the coffee's coming out, not to. And then, of course, you know, sometimes things happen in college and like you're either running super late for a class or, you know, it's a late night class and you don't have time to go home. And then, you know what? It just is what it is. And you risk the roaches. But like, anyway. Those vending machines are gross, and I didn't know they had them for tea.
It's all right, isn't it?
It warms you up.
So
That's
just
what's
as important in the Second World War as it was in the First.
Absolutely.
So we're inside the turret, Challenger
Yep.
1 turret,
Okay.
second tank that
It's
I served
tiny.
on. So welcome, yeah, and we're here obviously to look at the tea making facilities on there.
Yes.
And you'll notice, just to your left there, it's not actually in the right position at the moment, it should be further down. There's a bracket down there for it. It's the
No.
boiling vessel, the BV as we refer to it as.
And the British Army loves acronyms, doesn't it?
Oh, of course,
Oh,
absolutely.
everybody
I have
loves
to say,
acronyms.
ask any tank crew, and it is
British
the single
Army doesn't
most
have that
important
on
piece of
lock.
equipment on the entire tank. Forget
most
about
important
everything
piece.
else. Forget about armour, protection, firepower, mobility. Forget about it all. The BV is the single most important thing.
So you don't have this in a Russian tank or an American tank?
It was the British who invented this. Now, a few other countries have actually stolen the idea, and I've seen some similar things around there, but certainly no. And again, I think you can never underestimate the importance of crew comfort in the turret. You can see there, you know, we used to spend sometimes days inside this turret. So to have that ability there to run
Jesus,
the BV, to get the
days?
hot water was fantastic. And I think it's also important to mention that
Sorry, it took that a second to sink in. I was like, wait, days inside the turret. You don't get to leave at all?
there, you know, we used to spend sometimes days inside this turret.
Oof.
So to have that ability there to run the BV, to get your hot water was
No
fantastic.
thanks.
And I think it's also important to mention that, you know, it was, we've now seen World War One, we've now seen World War Two, but here you go, here's an item that we could have running 24/7 as long as the GUE, the generating unit engine or the main engine was running to charge, to provide power for it, and it would boil water. But of course, on top of that, it wasn't just the tea. We could put tins inside there, you could put packets
Okay.
of food, so it was your one-stop shop.
It's like a microwave.
Absolutely everything.
Gonna heat everything in
Your
this.
ball in a bag kind of food.
This was the thing. I mean, unless, especially on operations, you don't have time to stop and get everything out and get the cooker out and all the rest of it. So that was the thing that did everything for you, and it was an absolute lifesaver. And where you are at the moment, you're on the loader side of the fighting compartment. He was the man who, as well as being responsible for loading the main armament, doing the radios,
Loading the
2IT
tea.
of the tank as well.
Load
He
that
was also,
BV.
more importantly, critically responsible for making a nice cup of tea for us all. But yeah, and I think we should mention probably the thing below it actually is called the brew box, believe it or not. And surprise,
box.
surprise, that's where you would keep inside there. That's where you keep your mugs. That's where you keep your tea bags.
And not enamel mugs.
We always had China mugs because a cup of tea just
As
doesn't
you're
taste the
snobs.
same unless it's in a China mug.
Okay.
But yeah, the positioning down
Sure.
there, it wasn't left there all the time because, of course, what would happen was when the gun fires,
you say
can see
so.
the breacher of the main armament. If the gun fires, if you were to keep the BV in position, what happens is that little white handle down there, it's called the rammer handle, would actually smash straight through there. So, of course, on operations and
want to
also on
avoid
range
that.
periods, it would be moved out of the way and tucked away somewhere.
But what I love about this, Richard, is right next to here, we've got the thermal observation and gunnery site. Okay, that's here. Next to it is the BV, your kettle, which looks basically exactly the same.
Let's jump outside so it's a bit easier for
Fair.
everyone to see.
I wonder if anyone ever like painted them or anything or did anything fun with the casing of the BV. Like, I mean, I feel like that would be a thing you could do without it being getting in trouble, right? Maybe? Or no, well, okay. I do remember watching a video recently where they would, like the American Army at least, if you like damage or change any part of your kit, you're on the hook for it later. So it's like, no flare. Don't scratch it, don't lose this pen or you have to pay for it. I don't know if the British Army does something
So,
similar.
Richard, obviously you're kind of normally brewing up inside the turret. So how does this work? You lift it up.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously getting it outside of it. I think the important thing to mention first of all is obviously what you would need was the power lead, which is conspicuous by its absence. Having said that, though, we did have on our tank, you could actually make yourself a longer extension lead. So theoretically, you could get it outside of there. So you notice inside here, there's actually an insert. Well, we used to bin these because it was just you could get more water in there. And
Fair. Also, it looks exactly like everything that we use in like the restaurant industry. This is what you put your tomatoes or whatever in. Like that's exactly the shape and color of it. But also, I love that it's like you get someone who actually knows what they're talking about, and it's like this is the design of the item. This is how it's meant to be used. We don't use it that way. This is not how it is done. Get this thing out of here. Like, I just think that's fun. That's interesting. It's a really cool little nugget that it's like, as someone who's a historian or just someone who knows what a thing is, they might not know that. They might not know that you get rid of the insert, you know? It's like, it doesn't actually keep things warmer longer or anything. It's not thermal. It doesn't do anything. So it's like, well, why use it? Just get it out of there. Makes sense.
it would boil quicker, so we used to get rid of that. And there you go, and that really is as simple of it. The element inside there, throw the water inside there, put the lid back on, and then
Wait for it to boil.
and wait for it to boil. And it would
doesn't
boil
whistle when it's
super
boiling,
clip. It doesn't whistle, but what it does do, funny you should say
Super
that though.
quick, he said.
There's a bit of obviously you get a lot of pressure built up on there, so you could tell when it was boiling nicely, you used to get steam billowing out of the top here.
Nice.
So that's it, it's as simple as that. Whatever era it was, the facts of how really important. I mean, we take it quite lightheartedly, but it is critical to a tank soldier. It is there. It's that
I think it makes
great
sense.
feeling. It's when you're cold. It's something to warm you up. It's getting together as a crew. It's a real necessity. I cannot think of my 30 years of service on tanks what life would have been like without having a cup of tea.
Awful.
BV, wow.
God
A new
awful.
one
That
for
would
me.
have sucked.
So now, James, having drunk all that tea, of course, we now come on to the problem of how to go to the toilet in a tank. A question I'm asked a huge
My
amount.
God.
Well, should we leave
I
that for
bet.
another
It's
episode?
days, you know? It's a bottle, is my answer, my guess.
If this video has gotten you in the mood for some tanking, don't forget to check out World of Tanks and Players Only.
Players only. Sorry, this video is 4 years old. I don't know if this code isn't going to work anymore.
That. Please do subscribe to the Tank Museum's channel on YouTube and support us on Patreon so that we can make even more videos like this.
Okay, great. That was how to in a tank. This one was drink tea in a tank, and it really was about let's make tea in a tank. But either way, pedantics aside, that was interesting. I had fun with that. I kind of want tea now. Like anybody else kind of just want some tea? I had a lot of coffee this morning, so I don't really need tea. I've got some good chamomile. So no, I'm okay. I will definitely be drinking some chamomile tonight, though. But yeah, okay. I think that was interesting. And again, I like getting like some of the insights of how people actually do stuff in their jobs. You know, the things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. I like to know the nitty-gritties and the little bits behind it. I think that's really cool. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for suggesting it, Pterodactylus. And I will see you all in the next one.